Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365. Joined now by Bill Colarulo, the new midday host over on 97.5 The Fanatic. Bill, congratulations on your new gig, man. We appreciate you being here with us on Birds 365. You are killing it, my friend. Good to have you on.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here. Just trying to be like my man, John McMullen. I figured, you know what? Man. I got to look like the best in the biz. So
yeah,
took it down.
Yeah, my Z-level celebrity. Local celebrity, you have greatly surpassed already. So you're a shooting star. Congratulations, Bill. Middays 97.5. I saw Mike Missinelli took a 2-year vacation. You guys got plenty of reps together, so you guys should hit the ground running. From the JAKIB post game show, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it helped
congrats
watching every
again.
game with him here on JAKIB down at the Ocean. So that was nice.
Yeah,
but no, it's been good. It's been exciting. We had our first show yesterday. Second one kicks off today. And I heard you looking for a nickname. It's funny because you said Superstar Billy Graham. Yeah. When I was young, like most kids, when I was young, I was into the WWE a lot. And I wanted to be a WWF wrestler. And my dad nicknamed me the Superstar Billy Vegas. That's what.
Nice. There we go.
Based off of the Superstar Billy Graham.
By the way, I don't know if DeCecco told you another thing. Now that you shaved your head, not the same, but there is a security guard at the NovaCare complex that could be your brother.
Really?
And except you're the nicest guy in the world. This guy is not. So it's like your evil brother. He's the classic mall cop. He thinks he's got a little bit more stroke than he.
Well, I used to work down there. I used to work with Big Dom.
Yeah, Big Dom. Yeah.
So
I heard that. I didn't know that. DeCecco told me that.
Yeah, for
Big Dom knows everybody, man.
Probably about 7 or 8 years with him, and you remember Butch?
Yeah, Butch was the Eagles. I was not there when Butch was there, but I've heard many stories about Butch, and even more stories about Dom. But they will not. They will stay off the record.
If Big Dom ever decided to write a book, it would be a #1 seller, but he would never even think about it. That's what makes Big Dom Big Dom.
Exactly. And the legend grows there. So both of you, the legend grows. Superstar Billy Vegas, Billy Colarulo.
Yeah, so real quick, people are asking about this shaved head. Here's the beauty of YouTube. Nobody could see the back of my head. Like, Xander, I've seen you in person. I had a bald spot on the back of my head. I just took control before Father Time could, and I shaved it off. And people were like, what happened? You couldn't see the back of my head. You only saw from the front. It looked like I had those luscious locks. So I decided I was done with the bald spot, man.
I mean, long ago, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to try to hide things. Like, I still have hair today if I sit there, but I'm not going to.
I'm years back from you guys, and I'm almost ready to make the same decision as I watch in the mirror, and my hair is going and going and going, and I'm like, I'm almost ready to just take it. Just take it. I don't want to deal with it.
It's liberating, man. It's liberating.
It is liberating.
Well, Bill, you look pretty nice with it, I gotta say. Not everybody looks good with it. Johnny Mac looks great with it. You gotta
have the right side. You gotta have the right shaped head.
You gotta have a good shaped head. I used to shave my head when I was a big meathead in college playing football. I used to shave it anyway, so I knew.
You
knew it wasn't going to be bad when you shaved it off. You knew you had the proper shaped head. That's a big positive because it's dangerous the first time you do it.
Intimidate Missinelli a little bit, man. I had to come into the studio. We're going to be battling, so I was like, you know what? I got to do something to get him off his game a little bit.
Yeah, don't let Mike bully you either. Just go back at him. That's the good radio. So, and say hi to Mike for me.
I heard you talking about Haason Reddick situation.
Yeah, boy.
I just don't understand, John. You've been covering the NFL for a while. How the New York Jets could make a trade not having a contract already worked out. Once the Eagles gave Haason Reddick freedom to go seek a trade, his agent's able to talk to other teams and say, hey, look, this is what we're looking for. It's the same thing. Look what the Giants did with Brian Burns. They knew what they were getting as far as a contract before they made the trade. When the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown on the night of the draft a couple years ago, they immediately agreed to a new contract. The fact that the Jets would trade a third-round draft pick, not knowing if you could get this guy under a contract, is ridiculous. Like, if they wanted to send a 6th or 7th rounder and take a flyer on the guy, I don't understand how you trade a third-round pick when you don't have a deal already worked out. To me, that is horrible on Joe Douglas' part.
No, I agree, and I like Joe a lot, but yeah, that's that there's some back and forth. They say that Reddick agreed to come in and they would negotiate, and obviously Reddick's camp says that's not the case. Bottom line is, though, you're right, Bill. From the organization's perspective, from the Jets' perspective, if you don't have concrete, something, whether it's a waiver or I'll come in this, I'll sign this, you got to have something on paper. And that's a mistake. And that's why the Jets are the Jets. And, everybody's singing Howie's praises. I know you're on the air all the time. There are a lot of people that weren't singing Howie's praises. They should give him the apology first.
Look, I'm one of them. I did not like the move getting rid of Reddick. I thought you were giving up on your best defensive player of the last 2 seasons, a guy who still was playing at a high level. And there's still a lot of question marks on the edge for this Eagles team. But clearly he made it clear to the Eagles he was not going to play under his current contract. Yeah. And
that was
what I kept saying was I wanted to see what the Jets gave him. And I heard you guys talking about it before I came on. When they made the trade, I said, they're clearly going to give him a new contract. That's what I assumed. If it's less than $25 million, I'm going to be angry. I'm right with you, Xander. I would have been angry if the Jets gave him less than 25 because I felt like the Eagles should have done that. But now, God knows what he's asking for. He must be asking for what, $30 million to get close to what Garrett's.
I've heard at least 25 pretty consistently early in the process, and I'm like, at that point, I understood. I'm like, well, they're not going to 25. From the Eagles' perspective. And then you can debate where they should be.
Every day that passes is worse for him. I don't think his situation gets better with each passing day.
No, what are the Jets going to do? They're going to force him to play?
I mean, at this stage, like crazy. I mean, he's already been fined $1 million. If he doesn't get that increased contract, he just cost himself 7 figures for no reason.
I hope his agent knows what he's doing because.
Well, his agent is Tory Dan. He knows what he's doing. He's negotiated, hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. But, sometimes the player is running things, and I think the player's run. Haasan's got a chip on his shoulder. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. Not a bad thing. Good thing. Has fueled him. He thinks he's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and he's not treated like that. And basically, he's telling the truth. He is. For whatever reason, I mean, nobody has produced. There's 2 guys that have had double-digit sacks over the past 4 years. He's one.
Tim and Garrett, right?
Yeah. Might be Bosa. I forget who the second one is. But
either way, he's up there with some big names. And it's not even like he's had injury problems. He's never missed a game in his career.
No, and
look at his career. He played 16
tremendously durable.
16 games all those seasons. Then he came here to Philly, played 17. Now the issue could be, John, and I heard you talking about this too, the wear and tear on him, because this is a guy who's played. He played over 800 snaps the last 4 seasons.
Yep.
The year before that, he played close to 700. And in his second year, he played over 800. I mean, this is a guy who's played a ton of snaps in the NFL, and he is going to be 30 this year, right?
He's going to be 30 in September. He's going to be 30 on September 22nd.
But I don't worry as much about edge rushers necessarily hitting a wall like you do with a cornerback.
No, that's true. They could play into their 30s and be effective. That part's true. But you hit the nail on the head, because I was told that by somebody who would know. He has been ridden into the ground from a rep standpoint, going past his time. Forget about Philly. The Eagles, going back to Carolina and his last year in Arizona, and even his last 3 years in Arizona were over 800. Then he was just under 700. Then he was near 900. Those were his last 3 years.
Yeah, almost 900 snaps in 2020. That's crazy.
Yeah. And in 2021, it was 850-ish. In 2022, remember, you had the 3 extra games. So it was well over 900 in 2022 going to the Super Bowl. And 2023 was over 900 as well. The Eagles were concerned, they wrote, it's like when the Eagles signed DeMarco Murray back in the day, the Cowboys knew they ran him into the ground. They ran him into the ground, and they knew it. And they knew what was coming, and the Eagles made a mistake. That's what the Eagles think is going to it might not be until 2026 or 2025, but that was their biggest concern about, there was going to be the descent. And you could argue from 2022 to 20, he wasn't the same player last year as he was in 2022 already.
Yeah. He started to hit a wall a little down the stretch too, playing all those snaps, just like Josh Sweat did.
Yeah, him and everybody else on the Eagles defense.
But I get it from Reddick's perspective. He's 4th in the NFL over the last 4 years in sacks. He's again 1 of 2, and I think you're right, Bill. I think it's Miles because I think Bosa was hurt the 1 year. 1 of 2 guys in double digits for those 4 years. That's it. I mean, he's been one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and nobody treats him like it.
Yeah.
So I get the chip on his shoulder. I really
you got to make money when you can in this league. You know that.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Bill, let's move into the Eagles. Talking about we haven't had you on in a couple of weeks. We've had a mixed up schedule with the practices and everything. Appreciate you being here today. Just because we haven't talked to you, Bill, what have been your overall takes? I don't want to talk just about the game or a practice. I mean, we're 11 practices into this thing. They're in New England today for a joint practice. They're 1-0 in the preseason. What have been your takeaways so far from the Eagles training camp?
Well, the vibes were good, and then I made the mistake of saying on the air, man, all the vibes are so good with this Eagles team this year. And then the next day, McManus and Jeremy Fowler dropped the artitle about Hurts and Sirianni's relationship. But look,
I don't even think that was that wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad of an article. It was pretty much everything we already knew. It was just put into a 10-page article. Now, what we didn't know was that Jalen Hurts
Martindale stuff.
Called Wink Martindale, which to me was interesting because I know a lot of people took it as an indictment of Nick Sirianni, which, yes, it is for your quarterback not to trust his head coach. But I said, isn't it also an indictment of not only Brian Johnson, but Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach we've ever seen, Jason Kelsey, who's responsible for calling the blitz protections last year? Like, why didn't Jalen Hurts think, hey, I don't trust my head coach, but I could talk to my offensive coordinator, or I could talk to my offensive line coach, or I could talk to the greatest center of all time? No, he goes around to everybody and calls Wink Martindale. So I just thought that was a strange thing.
I didn't view it as a knock on any of them. I really didn't. I mean, look, I get it. You have coaches that you want to trust, but why is adding another voice a bad thing? Just like I talk to John about football every single day, you could say, well, why do you need to bring on Bill? Because Bill has a good opinion too.
But if he did it the right way, if there was a chain of command, like I just think you should talk to your coach. Like, we don't know. Did he tell Sirianni he was doing that? I just think it would have been strange.
The Eagles coaches reached out to Wink as well.
So then that would be different. And John, I loved your you were the one that asked the question, and Jalen said,
yeah,
what is this coming up for? You're like, hey, I didn't write
I didn't know.
Bill, the shirts are in production right now. I didn't write it with the Johnny Mac bobblehead.
Well, see, here's the thing. I was right there with Jalen. Jalen knows me, so he's asking me a question. Why is it written right now? It's not my place to say why somebody wrote something. If it were mine, so that's what I was trying to get to.
No, I thought you handled it well. I thought you handled it well.
I'm not trying to.
But outside of that, which threw some negative vibes into an overall positive training camp so far, I'm excited for the offense, obviously. I think everything that you're hearing and you're seeing coming out of camp is Jalen looks good. Jalen looks healthy. He's picking up on this offense. Obviously, they got a ton of weapons. I still have my concerns about the defense. And even though they played the other night against the Baltimore Ravens and you saw some good things, I still have concerns about the linebackers. I don't know if Zach Baldwin is the answer. It's interesting that Vic Fangio's response to what they saw in Zach Bond to be able to play inside linebacker was a couple of plays with the Saints. He'd end up playing kind of like an off-ball linebacker. It was just, it bothers me that are the Eagles really trying to outsmart the entire NFL? So no one else in the NFL saw this guy as an off-ball linebacker, but the Eagles said, you know what? We do, and we're going to outsmart everybody. That's usually not a recipe for success when you think you're the smartest person in the room. So I do have my concerns there. Now, I think I read an article, John, that you wrote that Nakobe Dean is still going to probably win that job.
I think so.
I think so. But that's concerning to me that he hasn't necessarily yet. So you have the issues.
Well, he played well in Baltimore.
He played very well. He played very well. But to me, it was very telling, John, that you have Zach Bond in a T-shirt in the third quarter on the sidelines, and you got Nakobe Dean still playing. So to me, it's like the Eagles already made up their mind. Zach Bond's our starter. I think Bond played, what, a couple of series?
Yeah.
He and Devin played 14 reps, and they were an ugly 14 reps. So,
and then they got him in a T-shirt. So for me, if it's a competition between Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean, why is Nakobe Dean playing late into the third quarter and Zach Bond's laughing it up on the sidelines with the starters?
I think, and that'll be, the starters probably aren't going to play against New England because they're going to get their work in the joint practice. The defense might be a little bit different because Vic is old school. He wants them to get a series or two. So I think it'll be more like if there's a sea change, like you're not the only one, Bill, I heard bring that up. Like they're giving deference to Zach Bond. Well, that was the plan for Baltimore. But after he watches the tape, if it's still the plan, then you might be on to something. I got to wait and see because that was bad. And it wasn't just Zach.
He didn't look great. He looked like a guy who's never really played off-ball linebacker.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
And
but I also have my concerns about that pass rush. And Nolan Smith, this is a guy where, and I will admit, I wanted to see the Eagles draft him at 10 2 years ago.
Yeah,
if they couldn't get Jalen Carter, I was saying take Nolan Smith at 10. So the fact that they were able to get both Carter and Nolan Smith, I was ecstatic. I thought it was the greatest draft pick ever. I know Nolan Smith got a sack in the Ravens game, but you heard Fangio talk about how, the tackle kind of missed his assignment and Smith was able to finish it off. Good by him. I still didn't see enough from Nolan Smith yet that I'm excited about this guy. And he's supposed to be part of the reason why you feel okay that they traded away Haason Reddick. If that was Haason Reddick in that Ravens preseason game, playing against third-string offensive linemen, Reddick would have probably had 5 sacks. So the fact that I didn't see Nolan Smith dominate.
Yeah.
I got to see Nolan Smith really step up. I'm starting to get my concerns right now.
Well, what about Bryce Huff? What about Bryce Huff? We haven't heard anything from him in camp. He's the guy that got the big bag of money to replace Haason Reddick. We just talked about Haason. Are you nervous on Bryce Huff? Because I got to admit, I am.
I'm not as concerned about Bryce Huff, only because we've seen him do it at the NFL level. I know he's only played 45% of the snaps, but as far as a pass rush, you saw him go double-digit sacks last year. You saw his win rate is through the roof, up there with guys like Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. So at least you've seen him do it against NFL talent. The reason I have more concerns against Nolan Smith is we haven't seen him do it yet. And I think for this defense to generate a pass rush, we saw they need depth. It can't be all on Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat. They're going to have to get something from Nolan Smith, and I'm just not sure that he's going to be able to play at the NFL level yet. I'm not ruling him out, but I do have my major concerns. When I look at that defensive line, Nolan Smith's the guy that I'm worried about. I think Bryce Huff, can he grow into being more of an every down edge rusher? We'll see. Can he get better against the run? We'll see. But at least we've seen him in terms of win rate, be able to do it against really good offensive linemen.
Yeah, I'm with you with Huff, and that's kind of where I am. I already know he can rush the passer. The other stuff, maybe he's not as good at. Maybe he doesn't get to the point where, but I would argue Haason wasn't great at it either. As long as you get to the quarterback, everybody's going to be happy. And I'm not as concerned with Bryce Huff as many are. you're right about Nolan. He's got to prove it. And Vic is honest, and he told you some of the issues. He's got to get better at the point of attack. Same thing with Nolan, though. All right. Yeah, he's got to get better at the point of attack. But if it's 3rd and 13 and he can get home, I think people are going to be happy. Offensively, we got no questions. This is going to be a great offense. Just
right
how
guard.
good.
Right,
Yeah,
just the right guard position.
And you know, with the other 4, as long as you get competent play from Mekhi Becton or Tyler Steen or somebody else, and right now it's looking like it's going to be Mekhi, you're going to be fine with that offensive line. The 3rd receiver as well. But again, if AJ's out there, Devontae Dallas, you're going to be fine. Now, I in Baltimore, no starters. Obviously, no Jalen Hurts, no AJ, no Devontae, no Dallas. But the longest pass play was 11 yards, Bill. 11
It was fun
yards.
to watch, wasn't it? Wasn't that fun?
Oh, my. Nobody's getting any separation, but that's, the backup wide receivers are not good, except for Britton, and they're not going to give Britton a chance, from my perspective, because of the size issues. Here's my concern, though. And I get it. People don't get to see all the practices, and I've seen every one. This will be the first one I miss in Foxborough. There's no interceptions from Jalen Hurts. That's all good. That's very rare in training camp. Trust me, that's very rare. I don't know if that's a good thing. And I wrote about this at Sports Illustrated. We talked about it all off season. You gotta utilize the backs. You gotta dump it off. You gotta take what's there. I think we might be seeing an overcorrection to that. And I start thinking about how many deep shots are they taking in practice? They take some, but they're generally in 7-on-7s when there's more space. And in team drills, it's been a lot of get the ball out quickly, 2.3 seconds, Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier. I don't know. Is that concerned about overcorrection when you see what's going on with the Eagles offense?
We'll see. I still have a lot of trust in Kellen Moore, though. I mean, this is a guy who's called plays for a #1 offense in this league. And for him to take away those shots down the field would shock me when you have guys like AJ and Devontae. But I am with you. I can't stand the stats from training camp about Jalen Hurts, because to me, whether he throws an interception or whether he goes 15 to 16 means nothing to me, because you don't know, did he go through his progressions correctly? Did he make the right read?
Kevin O'Connell was talking about the other day about JJ McCarthy. He's like, I know what he's supposed to do on every play. You might see a touchdown in a preseason game. That might not be the right read, the right play. You're trying to develop.
That's why it's so ridiculous to me when it's Jalen Hurts sets a record for no interceptions in camp. Who cares?
I love Elliott, but it's ridiculous. It's
look,
ridiculous.
He gets a lot of engagement with that crap. I get it.
Look, it's business, baby.
He gets a lot of engagement.
Business. Well, Nick laughs about it as well behind the scenes. I mean,
because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything when you're talking about practice and training.
And sometimes, Nick jokes about it a lot, and you'll hear him in press conferences, and he'll say, "You're doing a good job with the stats." He hates it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, whether it's subconscious or not, the Eagles have so much of a microscope on them. If Jalen Hurts does throw 2 interceptions at practice, look at OTAs. He was throwing interceptions all over the place.
Yeah.
And people were losing their minds. So it is something that turns into a talking point, and I think the Eagles are aware of it. So,
but you make a good point, John. I don't want to see them overcorrect. I don't want to see them change Jalen from what he does well. Yes, he needs to be better with the football this year. Too many interceptions last season. Still, I'd like to see him correct the fumbles 2 years in a row, puts the ball on the ground 9 times. It's just whether or not the Eagles jump.
I think every year he's in his career, he's put it on the ground 9 times.
I'd like to see him.
I'd
like to see him fix that, but don't change this guy too much. Don't make him a like you were saying, 1-2, try to throw the ball, get the ball out of your hands. There's a lot of things he does do well. I do want to see him go through his progressions better. I want to see him have more trust in the pocket, step up at times, but still, his legs are an advantage that I want to see him utilize, and I think that they will. You've heard Kellen Moore talk about it. You've heard Nick Sirianni talk about it. I loved the way they talked about Jalen's running ability as not only being an advantage, but then Sirianni said, we're going to add some wrinkles to the quarterback running game. I love that. I think that's a big part of why this team and Jalen Hurts can be successful. Don't take away what the guy does well.
Yeah, I agree with that, Bill. I want to ask you about I want to go back to the defense. I want to ask about Quinion, but before I do that, I got to ask you on wide receiver 3, Johnny Wilson, Britton Covey, Paris Campbell, outside the locker room. What do you think on wide receiver 3 right now? What's going to be the approach this year?
I've been saying for a while to our man Andrew DeCecco that I still do not think the wide receiver 3 is on the roster. Okay. And the preseason game, I was looking forward to saying, hey, someone proved me wrong, and I don't think anybody proved me wrong. The fact that they couldn't get any separation at all. And I know we're getting greedy here when you have weapons like AJ, Devontae, Dallas, Saquon, but I think there could be a third wide receiver that they could pick up. It doesn't have to be a superstar, but somebody that maybe can give you a little bit more than what you would get. And Johnny Wilson's had a great camp from all accounts, but there's a reason why. What was he, a 5th or 6th rounder, John? I can't remember.
6th.
So, I don't know if I want to rely on that, but
you look at the committee approach. What do you think of the committee approach?
That's fine if you have some good players on the committee. I just don't know. I don't know who would be on your committee there.
Committee of dunces isn't going to help you.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Now, Andrew DeCecco really likes
Britton's good.
Yeah, I was going to say, Andrew DeCecco's always spoke highly of Britton Covey in that slot. It's just he's so small, but
yeah, he's so small.
Bill, I can't get D Gunn in the green room saying crash test Covey, crash test. I can't get it out of my head, man. I just can't.
Well, they had the bet going all year with Seth about whether or not Britton was going to return a punt for a touchdown. It never happened. I think that was.
I tell you, they got a guy, JAKIB Harris. Now here to get back to my point on overcorrection. You're right. Nobody's getting separation in Baltimore. It was ugly, from our perspective, where you get to see it from over the field, and you can see just how little separation these receivers are getting. Now, the one thing about JAKIB Harris, and I'm not trying to say he should make the team or anything, although he is a good special teams player, ran a 4.39 coming out a couple of years ago. He can run. So, there's a guy who can just run past people at 6'5", and he's locked up because nobody on Baltimore thinks he's running by him.
Yeah.
There's when I talk about that. Look, if you're not taking shots, NFL players, and Nate Wiggins already I've seen in Baltimore, they're fitting him for a gold jacket, after one preseason game where he hurt his shoulder because he's too small. But first drive, Bill, it was 3 different guys. It was Johnny Wilson, it was Joe Nada, it was John Ross. He locked them up like it was Deion Sanders in his prime.
Yeah.
I'm with you. They're going outside the organization.
Well, the guy I was excited about, and he has been a major disappointment, was Ainias Smith.
Yeah.
I really thought he had a shot to come in here as a rookie and win that job, and I'm not even sure he's going to make the team at this point.
At the end of practice, what day are we? Tuesday. So Sunday's practice. They did this one-on-one competition with the whole team to end practice, watching with younger players. One of the reps was Ainias Smith against Andre Sam, an undrafted free agent safety.
Yeah.
And it was a good throw, and he had a chance to make the play, and Andre Sam knocked it out. Bang, bang play. CJ Gardner-Johnson just lit Ainias Smith up. The whole defensive sideline just erupted. He said, "You haven't done shit all camp." I wasn't going to say that, but Jimmy reported it, so I'll report it since he went down the road. That poor kid has lost all his confidence.
Yeah.
I don't see how he even makes the team. And they don't want to cut a 5th round pick. They don't want to cut a 5th-round pick, but he has done nothing.
It's shocking to me because you look at his time at Texas A&M. The guy was a 5-year player there, has all types of SEC records. You would think this kid would be able to come in here and at least do something, but
confidence
as we
is a
talk,
big thing, man.
I
You
know,
lose
that's why I wonder
confidence
if
in
it's
this.
not even talent right now. It's confidence. It's in your head. I mean, he's just fighting the football, as Johnny
I
Manziel.
went through Jalen Reagor. Now, people make fun of Jalen Reagor. The Eagles will see him today. He's still in the league with New England. Jalen Reagor was a big-time prospect. It wasn't like everybody said, you know what, Jalen Reagor sucks, but the Eagles took him at 21, wherever they took him. Everybody thought Jalen Reagor was a big-time prospect, just a matter of how big time. And he lost his confidence, and that was it, man.
Yeah.
That was it.
But look, as we're talking about wide receiver 3, it's not going to take much to get more production than what you got last season, because you look at last year between Julio, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Quez Watkins, 380 yards. That's it. That's all you got between all 3 of them combined. So we don't need an absolute stud to play wide receiver 3 for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Like, you need a guy though, when his number is called, he doesn't drop the football.
As long as AJ and Devontae are healthy, you don't need.
But it's
that's
light
the concern.
You are correct. God forbid one of those guys goes down. They are light at wide receiver.
Because, Devontae Parker was barely here. I barely thought about him until they lost him, until he retired. And I said, boy, they got nothing to back up AJ and Devontae.
And Campbell's still battling that groin, right?
Yeah, he's still got a groin. We'll see if he's back out there today. He better get back out there because he's going to be forgotten pretty quickly. But that's a difficult injury for a receiver, a groin injury. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm with you. I think that is the position they are most likely to go outside the building to try to fix, wide receiver 3. And that's why he's superstar Billy Vegas at Bill Colarulo.
The superstar Billy Vegas. I haven't heard that in a long time. Yeah, that was my dad's idea for my wrestling name.
That's a good one. Your dad should be a booker. That's a good gimmick. Middays 10 to 2 with our buddy Mike Missinelli. You guys are going to hit a home run. And thanks for still taking our calls, Bill. Now that you're a superstar.
This is where I started, man. My JAKIB Sports.
No doubt about it, Bill. Wait, Bill, last one on the way out, though. Just how intrigued are you on Quinyon Mitchell? I feel like, every report coming out of camp has been great on him. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
What have been your thoughts?
It's hard not to be intrigued because you worried that this kid played at Toledo and was this going to be too big for him, this transition? You just talked about Anaya Smith, who played in the SEC against the best talent in college football. And now he's lost all of his confidence because he can't make the transition to the NFL level. And then you got this kid, Quinyon, coming out of Toledo, and he's not backing down from A.J. Brown. He's not backing down from Devontae Smith. He's checking all the right boxes. You saw him make a real nice play on the ball against the Ravens. Probably should have intercepted it. But I'm very intrigued by him, and I love that because I'm high on Keely Ringo. We've talked about that before. I love that they're going to move Quinyon into that nickel corner, hopefully, because now – if Keely wins that job on the outside, I like our top 3 starting corners now with Slay, Ringo, and Quinyon. Big upgrade from last season.
Bill, that's the only thing I don't like. I think Quinyon's going to be a star. I think he's going to be a great, and Vic admits it, he's playing outside corner. So why are we wasting time? Get him out there day one, and you can make do with Avonte Maddox until Cooper. People forget Cooper DeJean. Cooper's coming. Hopefully he'll be out there by this weekend, as a matter of fact, if the Eagles' original timetable holds. And when he comes back, the whole dynamic changes. So I'm like, what are we doing? Just get him outside, Vic. That's the one thing I don't agree with.
If you do that, though, and I'm not against it, like you said, because if he's the best corner on the team, start him outside. But if you do that now, you block Ringo and Rodgers, so you'll have Quinyon and Darius Slay, and then yes, Avonte can be good when he's healthy, but that's been a big if.
Well, he's healthy right now, so all you got to get is Avonte as a bridge to Cooper. because that's where you're going in the slot ultimately.
It's a good problem. It's a good problem to have right now.
Yeah,
Certainly a better problem than what they had
year.
last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Ringo too. It's definitely an uphill battle.
Well, I love Ringo, but I mean, that's where Mitchell's going to be. And maybe next year it's
like
Mitchell and Ringo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
Yeah. But this year it's going to be Mitchell outside. You might as well get there as early as possible. My opinion. Obviously not Bix. And Bix got some cachet, so he gets to do what he wants to do. Like Billy C, some cachet.
Exactly.
Billy C. Well, I appreciate it, boys. Hopefully I'll see you next week. And John, heal up. I saw your tweet, man. Heal up.
All right. Thanks, bud.
Bill, thanks for being here, man. We'll be listening to you today on 97.5 The Fanatic. Appreciate you, brother.
See you guys.
All right, see ya. There's Bill Colarulo joining us on Birds 365.
Superstar Billy Vegas.
Superstar Billy Vegas. I love it. Good stuff from Bill Colarulo there. We're going to get to our next commercial break. A lot of people watching. We appreciate all you guys in the chat. Almost 400 of you live on YouTube. Make sure you guys smash that like button. We got to get at least 150 likes today with all these people watching. So if you're enjoying the show, make sure you smash that like button. I'm going to hit the commercial break now. We have Les Bowen coming up in hour number 2. But I also want to get the injury update from John McMullen. I want to talk about Cooper DeJean. I don't know if John's had any updates on him, so we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about all that and more coming up next on Birds 365. Stay tuned, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.